Perfect. Hello.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
Hey, good, Kiki. How's it going?
I I'm a little bit upset, okay, Scott Wolf. I'm a
Uh-oh.
little upset.
Uh-oh. Uh-oh.
Okay, so I've been watching Doc. I love it, by the way. I knew right away. There's some shows you just see the commercial and you know you're going to be hooked. And this is one of those shows I knew right away. I've been binging it in the morning when I get ready. I knew from your first scene that you were sinister and you were going to be a bad dude. And I don't like this. I'm a Bailey girl. Like, what is going on? You get this look on your face like, I'm up to no good. I killed the old man. I got him good. Like, what is happening?
Crazy, crazy, crazy. That's funny. I'm sorry, I guess I should say to start out. Look, I don't look at Dr. Richard Miller as a bad guy. I feel like he sits in the role of antagonist of villain. And yeah, like you said, he can have like a villainy face here and there. But really the story is like a good guy having to do terrible things because he's just in a terrible situation. And so here's what I'll say. Um, he's one of my favorite characters I've ever played just because how complicated he is. And because he has this history with Amy, with the central character. And um, he's sort of like, he's made a mistake. He made, and then compounded, they say the cover up's worse than the crime. Now he's made everything worse by trying to protect himself from this mistake. And if he had just gone a different path, things maybe would have just gone entirely differently. But so he's had to become like the villain he never thought he would be, which maybe describes me, Scott, playing this role, which is like, I'm now the villain I never thought I'd be. Although I've had a chance to play other characters where, we play against kind of my nice guy face and we have a guy doing things where you're like, ooh, I don't know if I want to hug him or slap him. And it's really fun to play characters like that because audiences don't quite know what to do with him. And that's fun.
How does it feel? I mean, I'm not like a look in the past person. I'm very like look to the future, but Party of Five was like iconic. Like that show was everything. I remember like sitting in front of the television watching when Lacey Chavasi, even that's what we call her by Lacey Chavasi. That's what we call her in our house.
That's
Even
awesome.
even in A Merry Scottish Christmas, when she says "I love you best," like it still chokes me up. Like I still
Yeah.
cry
Yeah.
every time.
Yeah. Me
What was
too.
it? Yeah, what is it like when you play such an iconic role and now you're trying to move forward? Do you still look back at it fondly, or in your head are you like, all right, already, I know I was Bailey, I was wonderful, but let's move on?
Well, I mean, look, at this point, it's been so long. But yeah, that show and that character have followed me around. It was very meaningful to people, like that audience just loved that show and those characters. And I'm really still proud to have played a character that, meant so much to people and still does somehow, because when people talk about like that character and that show, they don't sound like they're talking about 30 years ago. They sound like they just watched it last week. And so the fact that I was lucky enough to be playing a character and be part of a story that had that kind of deep meaning to people is something I'm so proud of. And so I get asked that a lot. Like, are you tired of it at this point? And to me, I'm like, look, I could have been followed around by a lot of things. I got followed around by a really beautiful show and a really great character that I'm still proud of to this day. But, thank God I've been able to like do all kinds of other things and play all kinds of other characters and including Dr. Richard Miller in Doc. And, one thing I can say is I definitely was, a thought that I was having when I was finishing Party of Five was, am I only ever going to get to play the kind of like super nice, earnest guy?
Hmm.
Will I get to play more complicated characters? Well, I have all throughout my career, and I've never probably played a more interesting, complicated, potentially challenged, ethically, morally challenged character than Dr. Richard Miller on Doc. So, this is this great punctuation point right now. I don't say punctuation like the end because I'm still gonna I plan on doing a lot more, but um, but yeah, I think the thing that Party of Five did was it set a kind of a high bar for me in terms of characters I wanted to play, stories I wanted to be part of telling. And so the fact that it has stuck around all this time makes sense to me because it's also stuck around for me internally because it is this kind of like beacon of, I want to be telling stories that matter this much to people and playing characters that have an impact on people this much.
So I already have a theory when it comes to Doc. So I'm going to
Okay.
give it to you.
Okay.
Are you connected to her son passing away?
Oh,
I know
okay.
you can't probably tell me, but that's my
I can't.
theory.
Yeah, that would be like a massive spoiler that I couldn't share. I will say that that you're the first person who has said that.
Oh,
That you would,
okay.
yeah. I hadn't heard that. I've heard a lot of different variations on people why they're suspecting my character is doing what he's doing and being how he's being. Um, the spoiler that I'm safe to give away is all will be revealed in these next few episodes, and
Woo!
and it's incredibly surprising in a really powerful emotional way, and I think it's going to have everyone second guessing how they feel about these characters.
Ooh.
My
Okay.
character in particular, yeah. I think what's really fun is, just when you think you know who all of these people really are, um, I think the episode 7, which kind of kicks off this like last run of episodes, really turns everything on its side and reveals things about people that are going to just challenge everything you think you know and believe about them. Yeah,
Interesting. Okay.
yeah,
It's
yeah.
so funny because I waited. I knew I was going to love this show, and I waited till there were a few episodes already out because it's hard to wait now every week for a show to come out, like a
Yeah,
new
everybody's
episode.
yeah, I mean people now, people have streamed shows now for long enough that it feels like it's really hard for people to just not have every episode at their disposal. And at the same time, I think there's something really fun about having that delayed gratification, having to kind of like anticipate what's coming next and like do kind of what you're doing, which is spend a little time going like, why is that happening? And why is that? And what do I piecing theories together and maybe talking to your friend or your mom or your daughter or who's watching your spouse or your partner and kick around like what do you think's happening with that and like the way we always watched stories and television. And so I think there's this comeback for episodic TV on networks because even though people say like it's too frustrating and I don't want to wait, I think there's really an appetite for that kind of viewing where it slows things down a little bit, gives you a chance to start maybe telling your own version of the story and then figuring out, is that it? Is that not it? And I love that. And I feel like Doc is a story that runs so deep and is so complicated in great ways that it really affords itself to this, you know, like I love hearing you kick around, theories about why people are doing what they're doing. And that's, you want people being involved that way.
Yeah, I'm not so crazy about that. I don't know if she's a doctor or a nurse, the one who went to HR and complained about her. I'm not so crazy about that one yet either.
Well, so I'll say, stay tuned. Stay tuned. I know there's a
You're
big,
killing
big, big.
me.
I know. There's big episodes here that are incredibly revealing, and I just think it's going to open people's hearts and minds to characters, for better or for worse, but mostly for characters that they are maybe having a struggle with, like how can this person be doing what they're doing?
Mhm.
There's a lot that happens through the rest of the season that goes a long way to explaining those things, and then it'll be up to you and the audience to decide, like, is that who would I be if I were them? And maybe I have a little more compassion for them. And I'll say this: one of the things I love about the show, everyone's talking about how the show is about second chances, and it is. This central doctor gets in a terrible accident, loses her memory, and it gets this sort of second chance at life and relationships, and everyone does in this environment because of it. The show's also, I think, about like how we make judgments about each other based on the little bit we can see on the surface. And that if you really dug deeper and scratched the surface and really stood in somebody's shoes, you'd probably feel differently about them. And I love that as a theme. And Doc very much goes there. And the rest of this season is very much about that.
I love that you said that because I totally thought that. I was thinking you don't know what people are going through, and we do. We just make these judgments all the time. Well, I got to wrap it up, but I got to tell you, I love you best. You're the best. I love it.
Oh,
I
that's amazing.
I'm so happy. Like even just saying that and thinking about that scene still 30 years later makes me want to cry. So that's how powerful you are, and Lacey Chavesi too. I mean, come on. You guys are great
Lacey
together.
Spacey, my forever sister. I love her so much.
Yes.
Well,
All right.
you're awesome. I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
You too.
Bye bye.
Bye.